Welcome back. Joining me now, federal Liberal Senator Concetta Fierravanti-Wells and Labor Senator Tony Sheldon in New South Wales. Thank you both very much for your time. Look, I don't know about you two, but many people, millions of people across the country received a text message from Craig Kelly, the Maverick MP who resigned from the Liberal Party earlier this year. It was a text message that has been very controversial because it linked to the Clive Palmer United Australia Party website, the party he's now joined and he's planning on running as a Palmer candidate at the next election. And it had a link to a site that was not the authentic TGA website, Therapeutic Goods Administration, but it appeared to be a link to that website. And it highlighted adverse reactions from the COVID-19 vaccine at the very same time, Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, as the government is doing everything it can to encourage the population to get vaccinated so we can all get out of lockdown and all open up. Craig Kelly is bombarding people with text messages warning them about reactions, potential reactions to a vaccine.
Well, Sharri, this is from the same party, and I found this, that on the 17th of January 2019 at 7:44 p.m, when elected, a text out to people, when elected, United Australia Party will ban unsolicited political text messages which Liberal and Labor have allowed. I have to say that's hypocritical in the extreme. Look, the government's position remains that vaccination is voluntary and it's free, and there are a raft of official government websites, including the TGA, ATAGI, the Department of Health, the Academy of Science, which set out information, including the low risks of vaccination. But that should not detract from people who want to be vaccinated to go out and get their vaccinations.
Tony, Craig Kelly does have a platform. He's an elected parliamentarian. Do you think there needs to be any official procedure, investigation, review here to see whether he has conducted himself within the law, within the parliamentary rules?
Well, I think that what's really important here is that Craig Kelly's a tool and of Clive Palmer. Clive Palmer is spending and will spend on basis of last election $86 million to re-elect this government. And that effectively turned around and put preferences into a lot of those seats. So what we really need to do is...
It's just important to point out there that this is contrary to the government's message, directly contrary to the government's message. The government is trying to get everyone vaccinated, and these adverts are working against the Morrison government.
Sharri, I totally agree with you, and I agree with everything that Connie was saying before as well. It's very sensible and thoughtful. But I think one of the things we have to say is the reason we're in this problem about misinformation and disinformation, playing Russian roulette with the country's health, is because Clive Palmer's paying for it.
So, Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, do you think there should be any, punishment here? Where does this end?
Well, I would have thought that these text messages probably fall into some form of political advertising. So I'm sure that something should be looked at in that respect. But I mean, I come back to this point. Yes, there are vaccination risks. There's no doubt about it. Having said that, the incidence of clotting with AstraZeneca, 1 to 5 per million. I mean, when you compare the risks with oral contraception, paracetamol, in fact, the greater probability of clotting through long-distance flying. The reality is that, for example, lots of people know that there's a risk with taking aspirin, yet 11% of older Australians take aspirin because the benefits outweigh the risks. And if we stay on that message that the benefits will outweigh the risks, and as I said, people who want to be vaccinated should get vaccinated. There is now supply issues have been resolved, and that's the message of the government. It's voluntary and it's free.
Yep. Look, we've heard both the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, and Dan Andrews and Gladys Berejiklian start to talk about what the future holds and opening up once the vaccination levels have reached that 80%. Tony, we're still hearing from WA and Queensland that they're just not going to let COVID into their borders. Do you think New South Wales, Tony, and also Victoria should be able to open up international borders without the rest of the country?
Well, Sharri, I think there's a couple of things here, and that is that it's been hyper political from the government, particularly going after those three Labor states. Now, I've seen them have a few whacks at the ACT government, which is Labor as well. But if they're going to be consistent, they need to be also saying that to South Australia and Tasmania, and making sure that they're on track about what they think is the appropriate approach. But when we talk about what's on track, we should be looking at the fact that the Doherty Institute still has to do modelling regarding the increased numbers of people that have got COVID in Victoria and New South Wales. And that modelling is urgent for the government to get the Doherty Institute to do. And I understand it's being done as we speak. But it's really critically important.
But ultimately, Chris Minns, the Labor leader in New South Wales, has come out and said he supports the plan to open up once there are those high levels of vaccination.
Well, I think everybody wants the lockdowns to finish. There's not can't think of a person who wants lockdowns to continue. The horrific effect on small business, large business, employees, their work, payments, supporting their families, let alone the pressure and tension that lockdown can create in the sense of the mental health consequences of that as well.
Yeah.
But when you're doing that, you need to weigh that up about saying, well, what is the right timing? And we've got a fundamental problem because we didn't get the vaccines early enough. We didn't have quarantine, and we don't still have an appropriate quarantine program, and that's putting us both delayed in getting to that 70 and 80%, which is important, critically important. Something is fully supported.
And now the New South Wales Premier is talking about just getting rid of the hotel quarantine program altogether. She says that people will be able to just isolate in their own homes when they come back from overseas travel. Concetta, there is a lot of concern, however, about just whether our hospital system will cope over the next couple of months. How many people will get sick? How many will be hospitalised? And we've heard Anastasia Palaszczuk raise the prospect of under 12s who, of course, can't be vaccinated anywhere in the world, but she says that they are vulnerable. The health experts we've had on this show say that children do not get very sick from COVID-19 and that is consistent with the Delta variant. But Concetta, do you think there will still be people who are uncomfortable about opening up and returning to pubs and clubs and sports events when we do have packed hospitals and packed ICU wards?
Well, 2 points, Sharri. One is, of course, there is a national plan. National Cabinet has agreed to that plan based on 70 and 80% vaccination targets, and it's incumbent on the states and territories who have agreed with that plan to honour that commitment to the Australian public. In relation to children in particular, I think the Chief Medical Officer, Commonwealth Chief Medical Officer, Professor Kelly, made the point at a press conference on Friday that of the almost 4,000 children under the age of 12 that have developed COVID this year, only just over 3% have been in hospital, and most of those were not seriously ill. Indeed, less than 1 in 1,000 have ended up in ICU. So most of the cases, particularly that we are seeing in New South Wales, are for minor illness. As you correctly pointed out, no country in the world has approved a vaccine for the under 12s. But if they do, Minister Hunt said on Friday that we are prepared and that there is a ongoing monitoring of the capacity of the state and territory health systems to deal with those issues.
All right, Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, Tony Sheldon, thank you both so much for joining me. And Tony, happy Father's Day as well.
Thank you, Sharri.
Coming up after the break, does Bill Shorten still harbour leadership ambitions, and how united is the Labor Party on the opening up plan? Stay tuned.